Hello mouses! Today's video is sponsored by kicking the doorstop and then wondering what the noise was. So today, instead of dealing with strange laws, I thought I'd talk to you about how to win on Judge Judy. Now, I've been watching this show for years and I see a lot of the same thing coming up again and again. There's always some sort of loan involved or a car involved, sometimes a loan for a car, and then you hit the jackpot. But regardless of what the case is about, there are always certain things that always crop up and can cause people that have a decent case to lose their case. So, let's go through how to win. First up, speak clearly and be polite. You've got to be able to express exactly what the problem is. And now I know everyone who goes on this show isn't a lawyer. There have been some lawyers and they usually get their asses kicked because they're all idiots. But the one thing that you have to remember when dealing with Judge Judy is she wants you to basically put your point across quickly and to the point. Don't ramble on about things that are extraneous. Don't go on about how your neighbour once watered his garden using a hose from his bedroom window. If that's not what your case is about, deal with the case. So let's say you gave someone a loan and they haven't paid it back. So you say, right, on this date we did this and this was the loan, this was the reason, this was the agreement, and he hasn't paid me back. Because you've got to demonstrate to the judge's satisfaction that a loan existed rather than a gift. Because a gift is something you can't get back, but a loan you can. And that you have proof to back it up. So state everything that's relevant and keep to the point. Now next up, you have to bring evidence. Judge Judy, like any court, has to weigh up the balance of probabilities. Which is, when you come into the court, it's 50-50 on who's actually right. And then you've got to use your evidence to increase the percentage of your probability of being right and decrease theirs. Otherwise, they could win. And you do this by providing evidence. Because like the internet, all courts work on the principle of pics or it didn't happen. Bring evidence. Did you make a loan? Well, you should have documentation for that. Because this is rule number 1 for loans. Get documentation. But if you haven't got documentation, if it was a spur-of-the-moment thing, like someone was in desperate need and you basically give them the money and said, look, give me it back when you can and I'll lend you the money, then fair enough. You won't have the time for documentation. You have to have the documentation at the time the loan was made. You can't write it later, so that won't work. So if you haven't got documentation, have a witness. Get something to back up your claim that what you did was loan someone money rather than give it. So bring documentation. Bank statements, a loan contract, a witness, a piece of paper that was scrolled on at the time but both of you signed, a video, whatever. Just have something, because if you've got nothing to back up your claim, then what's to say that they're not going to bring a sufficiently believable argument that actually what you did was give them the money because they were a close friend, or you were just being generous, or you were just being silly. Because if you can't back up your side and they have a convincing argument, then the probability on their side goes up. Third point. Do not, under any circumstances, annoy the judge. Now, this can be anything from back-chatting the judge, trying to be a smart-ass, or talking to the other person. If you're arguing with the defendant, or you're the defendant, you're arguing with the plaintiff, in front of the judge is not going to like it. And that reduces your standing in front of them. Because you can't behave yourself in court, how can you behave yourself outside? So yeah, there we go. Get evidence, keep to the point, don't argue, and you've got a good chance of winning, especially if you've got the evidence. Because let's face it, if you've got everything that you need to prove your case, you can win, regardless of what the other side brings. But if you haven't, then why are you there? Because you can't just make up a case on the spur of the moment and hope that it works. If you brought a frivolous case, you're screwed either way, so good luck for you for that. But if you've got everything together, then, and one last point. Bring documentation for anything that you have mentioned in your court papers. Anything at all. If you are there talking about a car loan, then bring all the documentation about that. But if you're also talking about a car loan because you had to repair a window, but the window is irrelevant to your case, or you think it's irrelevant, bring the documentation about that as well. Because if the judge asks for it and you don't have it and you can't prove about the window, that reduces your believability because you can't back up everything you've said. And that makes everything else suspect. So always bring everything you've mentioned and all of the evidence to back it up. So that's about it from me today. Good luck if you're going for a court case. Remember, this doesn't apply as legal advice, and you should always consult a lawyer if you want advice. A lawyer in your area as well. Don't ask for one from Antarctica if you're in Alaska and things like that. But until next time, good luck. I've been Zoe Kirk-Robinson, you've been watching the video, and I'll see you tomorrow.